Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's watch party for In Search of Darkness for the phenomenal Fright Night 2. I, as always, am Andrew Dalton, your low-quality host, and I'm today joined by our CEO, Robin Block. Say hello, Robin.
Hi, everyone. I'm only going to be here for a little while.
And I'm the low-quality host, but we have the absolutely awesome and phenomenal lo-fi horror guy joining us as well, who will be taking us through this great film. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. You know, what a cool opportunity and even cool movie to dig into. I'm stoked, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, the sync point for tonight will be basically the start of the movie, which is just as where it says the Vista organization presents screen appears. That's basically just the start. But first, I'd like to hand over to Mr. Block, the boss man, who wishes to talk to you all.
You know what? I love these watch parties. They're so cool. I love the Discord community. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up over the next few months. And I'm really just here to talk a little bit about what we're doing, just so you guys hear about it first. So it's common knowledge now that we are planning to produce In Search of Darkness Part 3, which I think is wild, because when I started working on this on the 14th of July 2018, I never knew we'd end up looking at a franchise and Part 3, but Part 3 is going to be amazing. So the concept for Part 3 is that we're going to be looking at the underbelly of 80s horror. We're going to be looking at the bottom shelf of the horror cabinet. And we're going to dive into movies you've probably never seen, that you might have bought or hired or rented or whatever, just because of the cover art, right? So we're going hardcore into the non-theatrical releases. And the concept as well is about appealing to our kind of core audience and creating a proposition for you guys where you actually get to tell us what to do, right? So we have, obviously, we've already been discussing internally kind of some films we're going to talk about, and we kind of keep all that stuff a secret, but by no means do we have all the films mapped out. And that's where you guys come in, because we want you to tell us what to feature. So when people ask me about our work, I kind of condense it into what I call the 3 C's, right? So curation, like what movies are we going to cover? And we want this to be expansive, another 4.5 hour absolute indulgence for 80s horror movie fans. So that's curation. The second one is commentary. Who do you want us to feature? Who are the, our job is to bring the best, most interesting, relevant, entertaining, charismatic speakers, whether they were the people that made the films, worked in them, are horror experts. Like, who do you want us to bring in? And the final C is actually what we've got right here. It's community, which is absolutely important. And it's mission critical for us. And that's what I think makes us different. Like, I've never wanted to be in the film industry or the TV industry. I believe that we're pioneering our own path with what I call community powered entertainment. So we want you guys to tell us what you want to see in Part 3. And I'm really excited about that, because I think that it's going to really empower backers. And I can't think of anyone else that's done it like this. I want us to be the kind of first. So excited about it, and I wanted to tell you that things are in motion. I wish I could show you the current poster design that I'm looking at, right? Which is sick, which is awesome. We brought back Dave Morell, who did the kind of I'm mirrored here, so it's this one from Part 2, with the kind of cheerleader, and we've called that cheerleader now the curator. So, but this is all about finding the buried treasure of the underbelly of 80s horror. That's what we really want to bring to you. So I'm very, very excited about that. Another thing that I want to say is just thank you to everybody who backed our FPS first-person shooter Kickstarter, which ended on Monday. That was very successful. In terms of the gaming genre space, that was the second highest grossing gaming documentary ever on Kickstarter. And we're absolutely delighted. We are accepting late pledges if you want to be on board. Carla will be posting the link on Discord. Check it out. We brought all the creators from all the biggest classic FPS titles together for the first time in history. and we're just going to have an awesome ride. And we've actually set up the Discord now for the FPS documentary, and all the people in there are awesome, and we're having a lot of fun, and a lot of cool stuff is going to be happening on that as well. So that's it. But the big news is In Search of Darkness 3 is happening. The journey begins in October, and I cannot wait for you guys to get involved. Like, everything we've learned in the last three years is being put into action on part 3. We want to end on a high. We want this to be the trilogy of the ages, you know, something that you can have a day long, because it's going to end up, if you part 1 and part 2, you're going to end up with like at least like 12 plus hours. We want you to have a whole day in the future of just total immersion. And that's the plan. So thank you so much, Andrew. Thanks for letting me come on. Eric, really good to see you. Love your stuff. Love your Instagram channel. Love what you're doing. Props to you. I'm going to go. Thank you so much. And enjoy the film, guys. I've got to rush now to my lounge so I can watch the movie. So
okay, we'll give you to the count of 10. All right. Catch you later, Robin.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There he goes. So we'll just chat. We'll give Robin just 10, 15 seconds. So Eric, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us for this. So when was the first time you saw this movie? I mean, what's because we gave you a list of movies and you picked this one. Why did you pick it?
You know, it's, I guess, kind of mentioning the underbelly of horror. You know, when you go to a local shop, you go to a video store or something like that. It's, for one thing, you're always kind of looking for something a little bit different, but then also looking, you know, every once in a while, and you get surprised by a franchise or by a sequel that you had never known. You know, for the years you loved The Gate, and then all of a sudden you stumble on some little crappy, you know, video shop that's in the middle of nowhere that has The Gate 2, and you're like, what the hell? Like, I never knew this existed. You know, I mean, yeah, before times of the internet and whatnot. And Fright Night 2, I mean, it's always been one of those movies that I loved from a viewer standpoint, you know, as far as there's lots of humor that lands for me. There's lots of really cool practical effects. I mean, you have Tommy Lee Wallace that's on it. You know, some of the things don't register, I guess, from like the first movie, but with this one, I mean, it hits in a different way that I absolutely love it. And then for the longest time, it being so rare, you know, you would go to try to find it somewhere, and my DVD collection, you know, I'd, you know, constantly be scouring and trying to find something out in stores, and it was hard. Finally, I mean, after, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years, I found it. It was kind of expensive, but
it's a cool, fun movie. Okay, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a countdown. We'll carry on our discussion, of course, as the movie goes on. So on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, everybody press play.
All right.
This is sort of a brief flashback to the original.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice as well that clearly they had the licensing in place to use footage from the first movie. There's nothing worse than a sequel where they've not had either permission contractually or legally for something from the first movie in it. And
yeah, right.
Like the main bad guy's just missing from every shot. It just looks really weird.
Right. It's a really odd knockoff, you know, character, like somebody that's supposed to look just like him, and it's like, is that even supposed to be the same person?
Well, like in the American Psycho awful sequel, the fake Patrick Bateman at the beginning.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. Rough go. But yeah, I mean, that's a good note taken, you know, bravo for them having that. And I mean, it's such a bummer too, in the sense of it not being furthered along, you know, in a franchise and just ending with the second one.
Yeah.
You know, and you hear that there's little things going back and forth as far as them actually making a direct sequel to the first one with, you know, the same original director. But yeah, who knows? I could only hope. I mean, but it's been quite a few years, so I don't know how exactly they would, you know, move everything along. But we have the Halloween series that's kind of doing that type of 40-year later thing. So never know.
I mean, let's get the elephant out of the room. Did you see the Fright Night remake and its sequel?
I didn't see the sequel. I saw probably the first half of the remake, and I wasn't huge into it, which is a bummer, because I'm a really big fan. Oh my God, what's that kid's name?
Anton Yelchin.
Anton Yelchin. Yeah, I'm a fan of his too. I like a lot of different stuff that he does, and it just wasn't landing for me. I don't hate remakes. I'm not someone who goes in to knowing a remake and just being so in love with the original piece that I don't want to give it a chance. But especially with Fright Night, it's a pretty it's for it not being Halloween or a front runner as far as the first horror movie that people talk about. It's one that it's got to be done right, otherwise it's not gonna work.
Yeah, it is a real shame. The remake was a remake, I think, for remake's sake.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't think it added anything particularly new. It twisted some bits around, but it still wasn't great. Oh, and that's why I would never use one of those really cheap, nasty disposable razors.
Boy, you gotta hate that, especially for battling off vampires. You do not want to. I don't think you want to cut on your neck. It's a bad spot.
Exactly. You don't blood pouring down your neck. But Sharon's saying, how is Charlie looking younger than he did in part one? That's a good point. But again, Charlie seems to be continuing that motif from the first movie that we noticed when we went through the first Fright Night, that Charlie was dressing like a substitute teacher throughout most of it, with the tweed jacket with leather patches on his elbows. I mean, the girls go mad for a guy dressed like your substitute geography teacher.
Oh man, that's a great point. Dear Lord, I've thought about watching these movies and taking some attire tips, and I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I think I'm going to need to get some shoulder pads.
Exactly. Mr. Robin saying, have we started? Yes, Robin, we are about 3 minutes, 50 seconds into the movie. There we go. So apparently Tom Holland's writing a book sequel to the film, so that'll be quite good.
Has there been anything further said on that? I mean, I remember there was an initial story that came out, him mentioning, but
no, apparently it's just been going on for a very long time. So it might be one of those development hell things.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know for a little while there, I was really big into, and I found some of these bad boys. I'm still watching the movie, but if anybody's looking and has
they're very cool.
The old, well, I guess maybe from the 90s or so, but the Fright Night comic books, I was real into those. Those were, a pretty fun series.
That's cool. They're very cool. I love the comics, the sort of spin-off comics.
Yeah.
Of any movies I see. They don't see them, especially in the UK now. They're very hard to buy. You can only really get them in sort of specialist comic stores, that kind of place. Normal place, sort of normal shops, not very often. Oh, there he is again. Calbot says sweater and blazer, so 80s. Again, teacher. Yeah,
let's look. He's got it going too. He's got the teal and the khaki. I mean, he's got it figured out. I think I'm gonna have to look further into this and maybe do you guys start doing a special on on dress tips. We could have Peter Vincent and do the whole rundown.
I love the fact that Peter Vincent dresses there's very little difference between his theatrical attire and his personal clothing in this as well.
Yeah. He shows up to set and they're like, you know what? The shit that we had in the back, never mind. Just wear that, please. Oh,
here we go.
It's almost like a Hugh Hefner of sorts. He has a little bit of that swag going, maybe going in to make a big a business decision from here. I like all the posters in this here too.
It's very cool. The old weapons on the wall. We can certainly see since the first movie, Peter's fortunes have turned somewhat because he was being evicted from his last apartment, and his last apartment also was rather shabby compared to this one's small.
Right.
But again, this is the trope of this is that well-established trope that subsequels fall into, which is it's repeating a beat from the first movie, which is basically at midnight seeing large boxes being moved into a neighboring property.
Yeah, of that happening, I can certainly say, as far as with this moment, just because he's kind of still telling himself like, no, this isn't, that didn't happen. This is a little bit more respectable than other, other moments. Or, if you have something, God, I'm trying to think of it's like maybe Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, where literally every, type of thing that might be a thought back to the original source is just the fucking flashback of it. Like, dear Lord,
Yeah,
exactly. 20
exactly.
minutes of a new movie.
Well, Sharon from our community says, again, Charlie, what are the odds? And Carla says, Charlie needs to stop looking out the windows. He does. He needs to just not stop minding his own business.
Right. Yeah. Oh, he's making quick moves.
He is. He really
damn
is.
Rascal.
It's quite sort of a, I don't know, what do you call that area what do you call that area in an apartment block? Sort of reception, the entrance. I don't know. It's kind of quite
like a lobby.
Posh. A lobby. Yeah, it's kind of quite plush with big rugs and plants and.
Yeah. I can't tell if he feels right at home or like he's sitting down. He feels at home. Shit.
Oh, yeah. But it's got that kind of Twilight Zone and Twilight Zone Tower of Terror from Disney kind of look to the lobby, that kind of classic sort of early turn of the century hotel, sort of 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we get the crew,
Yeah.
My man who kind of, reminds you of the Evil Ed, replacement there, and the big hair and the leather jacket, he was always the guy that drew me first, before all. I'm like, what the hell does this dude have going on, and I think further in the movie too, I appreciate him all the more even.
Yeah, it's got John Grise being kind of the werewolf Evil Ed replacement, and I love John Grise, who's I mean, he's in this. He's in Monster Squad. Who plays the werewolf in Monster Squad, as well as Sparky John just posted in our server. But of course, he's in Real Genius as Laszlo, and he was phenomenal.
Damn.
He's also the amazing Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh my God! I never put that together. Holy shit! Yeah. I should have probably said something. I keep on swearing. Is that all right? I should probably calm myself down a little bit.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I'll tell you what. I can leave that as the last one, but that was a worthy one because I had no idea that he was Uncle Rico. Oh my God, that guy's my hero.
Oh, he's one of those actors who just steals every scene he's in, every movie. So good.
Yeah.
But we got a question from Mr. Furzel for you. Scrolling up quick. Favorite Brian Thompson appearance in a movie for you?
Boy, I'm trying to think. Give me a list of other ones. I'm drawing a blank right now as far as other movies that he's in. Other
movies he's been in, he was in The Terminator. He's been in Cobra, Alien Nation. He's been in so many movies. He's in Star Trek movies. He was in Dragonheart, Three Fugitives, Lionheart, Nightwish, Moon 44. He's just one of those guys who's constantly cast as a henchman.
Yeah. Okay. I think honestly, I would still probably go with this, especially with his role in this, and kind of the dynamic that he brings into it and the look and everything. I'd still probably go with this. I mean, especially like Dragonheart. I remember I liked that movie a lot. That movie was really good. It's been some years since I've seen it, but that was a good one too. Terminator. I mean, duh. But
yeah, he's one of the punks that started Terminator. I loved him in Alien Nation, where he plays sort of this big, sort of strong one of the aliens.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen that one. When is that, from the 90s?
80s. I think 89. I think 88 maybe. It's got James Caan in it.
Oh, okay.
Very, very.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. this is such a great sort of atmospheric shot here. We're seeing, and I also like to think that that might be Charlie's same Mustang he had in the first movie, and he's finally got it fixed up because it was covered in filler and half paint in the first movie. So I'm hoping that's the same one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have painted it that yellow though.
Right. Right. You know, you're trying to be a speed demon, and you have a car bright red or yellow. You know, it makes it a little tough being so obvious.
It's not even that. It's just not a cool, super cool color, really, is it? You'd go for red or black or something like that.
There you go. Yeah. This is where some of the fun and, you know, eeriness that comes into this movie too. You know, you get some of the lighthearted, you know, kind of laughs and giggles, and then some of this stuff too, the panning, the quick views, you know, almost like a Sam Raimi Evil Dead move, you know, kind of peering right behind. And
so that kind of I just think it's just really cool, the kind of the shots with the fog, the moonlight, the way it's lit. Someone said, Lizardman said, they've gone for a Universal Monsters kind of template with a foggy night and a lone woman, which is very true.
Yep. Right on the head.
This is what's kind of crazy, but I'll go with it as well. There's all these people are walking around after, this is obviously after midnight, because we saw it was midnight in Peter's apartment, and everyone's just like going to class or after midnight.
Right. Going in, maybe some trumpet practice, you know, have to set up some things. Some kids are coming out from taking a test. That's no big deal. That's clearly not a trumpet case.
No, it's just science or something. Oh, that's a lifted. Yeah, we've seen that before, that trope. But I don't think we would have seen Freddy on the roller boots.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, by the end of the movies, possibly.
Yeah. Right. I tell you, this part was certainly, I think in any moment of the movie, this was like the part solely that just completely sucked me in, you know, quote unquote, you know, but just when they're coming up the hallway there and just in the slow motion and the fog, ooh, that's creepy. Then all the blood splattering out too, dear Lord.
I do wonder though, if these vampires with this kind of almost surferish kind of cool guy kind of look about, some of them, street punk look, if some of that was maybe influenced by Lost Boys being so successful.
Oh yeah, okay.
I do wonder if maybe some changes have been made where, because that last vampire definitely could have been lifted from the gang of the Lost Boys.
Yeah, totally. Now, do you prefer Lost Boys over Fright Night? What's your personal?
I think they're very different movies. I think this is more of a traditional vampire movie, and Lost Boys is. I love Lost Boys, and we've got Lost Boys as one of the movies lined up for later this year, which I really can't wait to be able to get to. But
ooh, nice.
I don't know. I wouldn't. It's like trying to choose between kids, you know. Oh, I just love the comedy on this.
Yeah.
So, question for you, Eric, again from Sharon here. What's your favorite vampire movie, and how does this one rank for you?
This one it's definitely up there. And I can say, you know, honestly, vampire movies are not my favorite. So if I were to look into like a stack of movies, like vampire movies generally didn't land with me. I can say that I love Lost Boys. I love Fright Night. And then the sequel, a little bit more recent, Let the Right One In. That movie was a really good. I'm trying to think of. Now I'm on the spot, and I'm going to have to think for a second as far as. So I know there's other ones that are in my collection that I'm forgetting.
Well, it's got some others from the chat, like Near Dark is another great one.
Near Dark was pretty good. I didn't love that one. I wasn't. It wasn't that I didn't like it by any means, because I mean I definitely dug that, and I have that one too. but I think these other ones were more, you know, what had landed too. Recently, I think even this last year, there's a movie that came out called My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To.
Okay.
Have you seen that, or have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
If anybody has seen that, you know, make a mention as far as you know, if there's a comment sheet below. But I just recently watched that one. I'm trying to think of who the director was, but it was a very different approach, and almost, you know, it took a realistic approach as far as this real family taking care of, you know, what you think for the whole time is this vampire type creature, and then by the end of it, you know, it kind of, you know, shows what exactly is going on. But that movie is really cool. I enjoyed it, and I've read some things online about it, people kind of going back and forth, but I thought that movie was cool as hell.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. So okay, let's rephrase the question because it's kind of a bit wide scope. Let's go to the 80s. Give me your top 80s vampire.
You know, I'm gonna have to say Fright Night.
Fright Night? Okay.
The first one. Yep.
So you're talking about the character from the first one. Okay. I would go with Duncan Reger's Dracula from Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you were asking about characters. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, which is your favorite
movie?
No. Which is your favorite vampire from the movie? So I would say Duncan Reger's Dracula from Monster Squad. I'd want a whole Dracula movie about him.
Oh yes, absolutely. I that would be so awesome. You know, that was one of those things with that movie too, where it kind of left me at the end. And I just recently watched it probably this last Halloween, where, you know, you're feeling, boy, I really want to go and I want to have a movie about, you know, this character and this character. You know, it was like everything was so entertaining where you really wanted to dig back into knowing more about. And maybe not in the Rob Zombie sense where, you know, it's like you have to go and dig into the childhood aspects of everything, but a little backstory, you know.
Oh, I'd take a classic vampire Dracula movie with him, you know, with the maidens and the burning torches and the carts and
yeah, very nice. I'm gonna have to think though, because I know that there's other vampire movies out there that I'm forgetting, and I'm gonna kick myself in the ass when I dawn on it.
That's fine. You ever think about it and let us know. But a lot of the chatter are going with me, so we'll see who wins on this one in a little bit. Seeing a cool thing. Now this again touches on something that I actually did some research after our last watch party with Fright Night, and something I'd read, I reinforced that in the mythology does exist with vampires, that vampires exude pheromones. Which is why male vampires are so irresistible to women and vice versa, as we're seeing here. It's why, yes, she's an attractive woman, but it's why he's not, you know, initially when she turns to his apartment, he's necking with her immediately. But apparently vampires are known to emit pheromones, which make the victim susceptible to be attractive, almost offering themselves to the vampire.
Oh man, I love that. Nice. And here he is. Look at him. He's there.
Yeah.
But it's just a dream. He's just telling him.
Is it a dream?
Yeah.
Is it a dream? That's the question.
Teenage caveman, pushover. That was something that I always loved too, is watching movies and just seeing something in the background, or I guess more of the obvious things. You know, you watch like the Evil Dead that has the Hills Have Eyes poster downstairs, and you know, you kind of see little nods to other things, you know, and you're watching, you know, what the hell is that movie, you know, and then you discover something else that you're too young to be watching. Your parents are yelling at you. And
So actually, let's go back to that. When did you first see this movie, and were you old enough to see it? Where and when?
I was I want to say it was probably in the prime of like me discovering everything, probably around 13 or 14. I had I had been more into a lot of the mainstream stuff, and for a long time, a lot of the things I saw initially were movies on like TV networks, you know, and you would have around Halloween time, they would play some of the bigger franchise stuff. And I think the original time I saw this, it was a video rental shop I think actually it was like a Blockbuster. It was like a bigger spot, but it was a VHS of it. And
Okay.
My best friend Ryan, who him and I discovered all of this stuff, he had already known about it. And it was kind of the situation where we were talking about, sequels or movies, that you might not have realized had a sequel or whatnot. And, he mentioned that there's another Fright Night. And I'm like, oh man, I love the first one. Let's check that out. And, but I can't remember if it has like the same cover art as this, or if it had like the poster art, like the original Fright Night with the house or the apartment building on it with the looming over. I can't remember what the cover was, but that was, and it was so fun, digging into some of these and seeing some of these and kind of revisiting characters, in a further fashion of not even knowing that they existed.
Yeah, I think for me, I saw this on satellite TV when I was a kid. I saw this movie before the first one, so quite often I'd always seen sequels before I saw the original versions of the movies quite often. So this definitely fell into that sort of thing for me. So that's probably why I've got more affection for this than the first one.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is I say Fright Night, the first one, I think just because of that being like my favorite vampire movie. With you have Evil Ed and just kind of the dynamic there as far as the characters, and maybe with this some of the, not to say the rehashed moments, but some of the things it's already relative. It's already comfortable, and you've been in this world a little bit. And Fright Night, originally seeing that was it was so much fun. Oh, another one, From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's a great.
I don't know if it's technically just considered a vampire movie, but dear Lord, when I first saw that, I about lost my shit. It gets about halfway through, and all of a sudden you have all these demons.
Just as you say that, someone in the chat, Lizard Man, one of our community members, immediately starts talking about From Dusk Till Dawn.
Nice.
So it's just nice. See, it's a great movie.
Yeah, he knows what's up. Yeah. Oh. Maybe I pulled this move with me having the sunglasses on from him. I'm just realizing this right now. I'm gonna go with that from now on. Shit.
Yeah.
Just hating everything,
Come on, this therapist needs to hurry up. He's got to teach geography to 4G in half an hour.
Dear Lord. Look at that chair in the background, though. That looks like one of the damn comfiest things that you can sit on. Kind of looks like Ferris Bueller right there.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably not a nod by any means, but just seeing him,
Yeah, definitely. But it's the 80s vibe, isn't it? Ferris was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So is this just a sort of a leisure centre with a bowling alley at the university, or that's nearby it, or is it in the university? Because it almost seems like she's on campus and they've got a bowling alley.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, do you guys have bowling alleys in your campuses or universities locally?
We have them, not usually in universities, I don't think.
Yeah. I think I can second that. I've never seen that, but
no.
Certainly now being a little bit older, watching this again, it makes you a little more jealous.
Oh, so got to interrupt just for a moment. Sparky John, one of our community members, harks back to a great time we had when we watched. Well, I'm just going to say this to you and see if you can guess the movie. Naked Zombie Space Vampires.
Boy. I don't think so.
Life Force, the canon movie.
Oh, damn it.
They are some great vampires with Matilda May.
Oh, man.
I'll be honest, she is the most incredible looking vampire in any movie. She is absolutely gorgeous. And here we are, we're seeing the late, great Merritt Buttrick appearing, who was made famous by playing Captain Kirk's son in Star Trek 2 and 3. He was a great actor. Sadly, his life and career were cut short very shortly after this.
Mm-hmm. Man, and mentioning you'd mentioned somebody mentioned Life Force too, and touching, I guess, again on cover art too, and having that big space and the eyeball up top, I mean, what an captivating image, you know nothing about something like that. Boy, I need I need that in my life.
Oh, great poster, great movie, just awesome.
He's addicted now.
He is. He's starting to turn the whole. But then again, did Lost Boys steal from Fright Night equally? Because in the first movie and in this, it's established that if you are a vampire, you can be turned back if the head vampire or whatever who turned you is killed before you make your first kill. And that's in the first movie. That's a big part of Lost Boys.
Yeah. Okay.
So is there a little trading back and forth between the two movies?
There could be. Unfortunately, there wasn't a Lost Boys 2 right after, to where maybe it could have made the best of all three worlds, and then made like an ultimate. Well, I guess there was a Lost Boys 2, but
we don't talk about that.
Yikes. I mean, and I shouldn't completely shame it because I really don't remember it. I mean, I think off of premise, just right off the bat, I probably didn't give it a whole lot of opportunity, but wasn't like Corey Feldman in it? Or am I completely pulled?
Both Coreys were in it.
Okay.
However, hang on. Haim is the one who's still alive, isn't he? He was in it through. Feldman was in it throughout most of it, and he's alive, and he was in it as Edgar. And then the other Corey appeared in a cameo in a deleted ending scene of the first of the Lost Boys sequel, where he's become a vampire.
Okay, all right. At least it got deleted.
Yeah.
I shouldn't hate so much. I'll probably end up going and watching it. And that's one thing I can say is there's a lot of smaller companies out there, indie companies out there that are doing different things. And I can say for a lot of times there's something that maybe at first I might not necessarily, have had given it a chance, but over the years, just the appreciation over the fact of not seeing another fucking remake or some sequel that didn't need to happen. It's just like
my problem is I don't see the point in trying to catch lightning in a bottle because you can't do it twice.
Yeah, right. I mean, if there's someone that's doing, like a direct sequel to something that they had already tried, I guess like with the new Halloweens, for instance, when you have the same director who kind of consecutively is doing these 3 movies and trying to make like a moving, picture in a sense. I can dig though. I don't know what you think on any of those movies, but just an example.
My problem is I just don't like unnecessary sequels. And that's I don't like unnecessary remakes, and I don't like unnecessary sequels. You do a remake if you've got something to say that's going to be different. I mean, obviously, probably the worst remake of all would be the Psycho remake, which was a literal shot-for-shot remake of the movie. It's completely pointless. Don't do a remake if you've got nothing to say, and don't do a sequel if you've got it. Don't do a sequel if you're just going to reheat the leftovers.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a brand new direction on a sequel.
Yeah. There was you mentioned it shot for shot. There was a remake of Cabin Fever that I didn't even make it in 10 minutes into that. They did that same thing. It was a shot for shot and maybe only remade after like 7 or 8 years after the movie was made. You know, it's like everything about this is wrong. Like I don't know where that got greenlit, but
no, it's not needed. It's not needed. But here we go. See, Charlie's sticking his nose in. Let's see what he finds this time.
Yeah. Again with the windows.
Yeah. He's peeking in.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, here's a good question for you from Sparky John in our community view, Eric, which is, what do you think of the Evil Dead remake?
You know, well, let me hold back from saying love, but maybe just short of love that movie. That was actually one that that really worked for me. I don't know if that's you know, a popular opinion or you know, whatnot, but I've revisited it a couple of times ever since I saw it in theater. Initially I was bummed out because it wasn't going to have, you know, Ash or, you know, some sort of like a character, but I guess it doesn't really matter as far as if it's a female or a male. You know, I think it was more just the charisma behind him and, you know, kind of his personality and the cockiness, that it wasn't, you know, the trailer didn't really portray it was going to be having that. But man, I thought that movie was cool as hell and gory as hell. Dear Lord.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I will hold my hands up. I've not watched the remake. I've seen the originals.
Oh, okay.
But I've not watched the remake yet. But I can give you an opinion from Sparky John, who asked you the question of you. He just messaged it to me.
Yeah,
which is, as remakes go, it was good and it didn't copy or harm the original film. So I'd go with that then. I'd watch it. And I think that's probably why I've not watched it. I think after, very much like the Friday the 13th remake, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, those kind of things, I just went, I'm noping out of them. I've got the originals. I'll stick with them. I don't need to subject myself to something where I'm thinking, if I want to see one of these characters or these scenes happening, I could be watching them in a much better way. So on that recommendation, I probably would.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Oh, now, what's your favorite of the original three? Let's dig into that a little bit. Put you in.
Well, for me, it has to be Army of Darkness.
Yes. Oh my
Love
God.
Army of Darkness.
Man, I tell you, you know, it's funny. Like, I absolutely, that is my favorite. And Evil Dead 2 is such a smidgen short under that, but just the fun and all of the goofy silliness. Well, I mean, I guess my, you know, Evil Dead 2 there, I got that bad boy, if you can see. That's my cool. My little deer head. But Army of Darkness is going to have to follow, you know, very, very soon, because dear Lord, I love that movie.
What I like in some of Army of Darkness, what I really like about some of Army of Darkness is I even got some from certain scenes in it, some early Peter Jackson vibes and bits of it.
Oh yeah, totally.
From some of the brain dead, bad taste type sort of era of his stuff, sort of people screaming at the cameras with gunshots going off wildly and that kind of
yeah. And being young too, I can mention as well, one of the first times I remember watching that was on TV, in the moment that he's holding up his, you know, his boomstick and he's talking about, you know, it's made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's not too far from me. It's like an hour or so, like, you know, from me. So I was like, what the hell? You know, why are these guys talking about Grand Rapids, Michigan? You know, and this is kind of a time where anything that you would hear mentioned in a movie, you know, was either New York or LA or something, or Florida, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
But, so that definitely that part won me over as well. I wanted to mention
it's quite cool when you get a call to your hometown or nearby in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where in Michigan are you? If you don't mind.
I'm like probably an hour and a half out from Grand Rapids South, and it's a spot, you know, where I guess the exact city I'm not going to say or anything like that, but it's I mean, like southwest of Grand Rapids.
Okay, so I spent a Christmas one year many years ago north of Grand Rapids. I spent it in Traverse City.
Oh, so, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, I know how cold your winters. I know how cold your winters get.
Yeah. Well, if you come, if you come back over, let me know. I'd be happy to bring you around some different bars or restaurants or something like that. And
Sounds cool.
Go and check some spots out. There's still a couple of video shops, that are local around that we can scrounge some shit too.
That sounds good. But I'll tell you what would be really cool, to get invited to a cool vampire party like this, if we were safe, though.
I wanted to mention, so the scene when they're first walking in and the vampire starts coming up and he's got his fangs hanging out and he goes to like kind of go into him and he raises the cross really quick, and it's kind of like a snap scene where his head goes down, he comes back up and he's like a regular dude again. I love that. That was so cool.
Yeah.
And it's a millisecond of the movie, but little kind of touches like that are things that I certainly did enjoy about this movie. And even something as little as that, I thought that was cool as hell.
And here we are, as we see in a lot of 80s sort of horror movies, you see the main sort of beautiful female doing just an incredibly sort of erotic dance, but they work in so many of these movies, these sort of sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is also, vampires have kick-ass parties, I guess. That's the thing. I mean, look at the vampire party in Blade. How awesome was that if you were a vampire? Not a human, but if you're a vampire.
Yeah, right. Let me ask you about this one. This is, and all those that are watching too. What did you think of the movie Daybreakers? You ever seen that movie?
I've not seen Daybreakers, no.
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily it was one that I would put up with favorite vampire movies, but it kind of it flips things as far as it kind of takes it into like a little bit of a political aspect, and the whole world is basically vampires and they're running out of blood and they're trying to figure out alternatives and how to harvest and save. And Sam Neill is one of the lead actors. That's right. In the movie.
I can see Zabulon in our chat says, enjoyed it. Can't go wrong with a movie with Sam Neill. And we've got Sharon saying Daybreakers was awesome. I liked it a lot. Sharon's also saying she would go to a vampire party, but Sharon, you'd probably go to any party. And I'd party with you, Sharon, because you're awesome. And Lizardman says no one can resist the 80s sustained guitar riff, which is true. But speaking of movies that I think got better with age, especially for me, from sort of vampire movies, I think Interview with the Vampire. I hated it when I first saw it. I hated it. Absolutely hated it when I first saw it, and I really enjoy it now.
I've never watched Interview with the Vampire, which is insane. My wife will drop kick me every time that I mention not seeing that movie, and it's just one that it's kind of slipped through. And a funny thing is, like, I remember being younger and there was certain movies that my parents would tell me, like, you got to go and play in the bedroom or something. It'd be, scarier movies. And one of them was Interview with the Vampire. And so I'd sit kind of by my door and be listening. People are screaming and yelling, and it's like, man, what the hell's going on?
It's a real gem. That one. Yeah, it's a real gem. You've probably missed out on. Go into it. But I think the thing for me that put me off it was, and where I got back into it was, I watched it, but then all the books started getting popular, and I was in high school, and all the girls started doing, as the books came out, started doing that obsession with vampire, sort of the most romantic. They Twilighted it before Twilight.
Okay.
Gotcha. And I noped hard out of it. And then I took my own time to get back into it again.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it, but I didn't want all the Twilightiness, kind of proto-Twilight it had about it.
Yeah, got it. And it was certainly the cast that was involved with it. And I'm trying to think, who was the director of that one?
I can't remember.
Do you know offhand?
No, but I'm sure someone in our chat room will confirm.
Well, I should just say, even aside, it had a lot of things going for it where I just don't really even have a good reason for it. I have not, have seen it, but it's certainly, especially now after saying it to someone else other than my wife, I'm probably going to have to go and check that bad boy out. The old flip mirror, this thing.
That's cool. Well, it's a cigarette case, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay. Yeah.
It's a cigarette. A gentleman wouldn't just have a soft pack of cigarettes. He would always have a. Neil Jordan directed Interview with the Vampire. But that must be, as Carla has just confirmed, that must be a new cigarette case because he broke the mirror in his original one in the first movie.
Ah, touche. Yeah. he's got a good supplier, I'd assume. He knows where to go.
Yeah. Some kind of a gentleman's Zara store that sells just the finest.
Sure. Maybe it requires an appointment, a nice cigar before making a decision.
it'll be like the place in Highlander 2 where he buys his suit, where Ramirez buys his suit from. That kind of place. Gentleman's store.
I don't know if you saw or not. And oh boy, the Julie Carmen actually had shared your guys' flyer that you put on Instagram there.
Oh wow! No,
and made a mention that we were going to be doing this today.
Oh, that's so awesome! Well, thank you, Julie.
Yeah,
thank you. If you're watching, Julie, that's incredible.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's so cool. Shit.
That is. I mean, she absolutely steals this movie. She's so cool, and I mean, and she has such a big act to follow with her on-screen brother Jerry, but she did such an absolutely amazing job. But we've got a question for the chat and for you, which is Regina versus Jerry. Sexy, alluring, yes. Threatening and terrifying, no. That's a statement and kind of a thing. I mean, do you find? I mean, that's the whole point. Vampires are supposed to be incredibly seductive beings,
right? Yeah, I think. I mean, as far as with Regine, there's nothing more terrifying than a woman that's alluring you and is beautiful, and you're just falling for her and you draw in, and then she ends up a damn vampire. What is worse than that? Jesus, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna have to disagree there, boy. I mean, of course, in the first, he certainly has, that swagger to him, and just kind of has that draw, and I'm not a vampire, kid. What's your, that type of deal, and you fall for it, and but with her, you look at her and you're like, boy, you're just beautiful. Tell me what I need to do here. Jeez, fall right into it.
Well, the way I'd go with it is, if I ended up on a date and she was that beautiful and turned out to be a vampire, I'd say, I've had worse dates, I just love this. He briefly turns into the wolf and just the dog.
So cool. That is so cool. Yeah, yet another moment. Like I say, I think that might be one of the things I love about this movie, is that it's not a whole huge, just hour and a half of a bunch of kind of punches in your face, but the little things, like that moment there where, it could easily in production have been passed where they're like, no, we don't need to do that. We're going to have to put makeup on and we're going to have to so cool. I love that. I love that small detail like that.
Exactly. I mean, that will have cost them, as movies cost thousands for every second they're on the screen. That shot alone maybe cost several $1,000s, but it was cool that they just did it.
Right.
For a brief gag.
Always eating the moths too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think he's supposed to be a familiar, isn't he? Very similar to the other one, whereby they live on putrid life, insects and the like.
Oh, here's another one I'm just thinking of. You mentioned familiar. What is your take on What We Do in the Shadows?
I like
comedy, of course.
Yeah, comedy. But then I love anything Taika Waititi.
Okay. All right. Have you seen the TV show?
No.
I'm telling you, it's a hard sell to say I was in love with the movie, and I am even more in love with that TV show. It is hilarious. Yeah. I do love. I don't know if if well, I mean, it's pretty popular, so I mean, I would think that there's a pretty good following to it, and they have another season coming out for it. But man, there is some really funny stuff in that show.
Yeah, Taika Waititi is brilliant in just everything he does. I think, I mean, again, this isn't an old movie. It's not a horror movie, but Jojo Rabbit is one of the greatest movies I have ever seen in my life.
Yes,
it is. No way to describe it except brilliant. It is hysterically funny and tragic. It is just incredible. So Thor Ragnarok, I thought, was an absolute joy. I think the fact he saved Thor, which was the most broken of all the Marvel movies, the franchise of Thor. He's just a genius. Taika Waititi is. I'll watch anything. He's got a movie coming out about soccer, and I don't like soccer, but I'll go watch it because it's Taika Waititi. It'll be
good. it'll be there.
Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. Nice.
So Mad Matt raises a really good point here. Was she invited in? The previous dream actually occurred. So obviously, if she did just appear there, that previous dream definitely happened because he would have had to have invited her in.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the other question for vampires, where you have the whole thing where you have to invite them in to lose power so they can attack you. How does that work for, and I'm not being silly here, how does that work for shared dwellings like apartments? Because in the first movie, he had to be invited into a house. Is it the threshold of the actual apartment or the building that you have to be invited through with an apartment? I don't know. I don't know if there's a book of vampire laws, how it works, but
I don't, I guess that kind of goes along. I was mentioning that movie earlier, the My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, or I think that's the whole title, but that's kind of the thing too, because it's a brother and sister who are helping the youngest brother who you are thinking the whole time, or I'll just say you are thinking the whole time is a vampire, so you kind of mentioned that as far as like, well, you already live here, and if you became a vampire and now you're coming back and this is how does that work?
Exactly. I don't know. It's an interesting one, because I mean, if it's an apartment block, you could have a guy on a security desk who'd ring the buzzer and he'd say, come in, and that's giving you in, and then is he giving you access to all the apartments?
Right, there it is. Yeah, but now you mentioned, I mean, as far as him when he being in an apartment, yeah, that's, if you're getting stopped up at security, and you already have that in there. Well, here I am. I had my welcome. Thank you.
Oh, and they're doing
my man with a button up and no t-shirt on, a gold necklace. He's making moves too.
That's right. There we go. And she's doing away with good old Peter. She's muscling on him. It's very much a dedicated effort from Regina to basically do away with Charlie and Peter. So to take away Charlie by turning him into a vampire, maybe in the slow, drawn out process, and Peter to take away his show from him.
Yeah, what a heavy blow too for him to lose a show.
Yeah,
and then to see that cardboard stand up, which now that I'm looking at that, now that I see that again, that would be really cool to have, as a collector, have that piece from the set. That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing to see. I wonder if there were many made and where they are now.
Yeah. eBay for $4 million. Bastards. And something too, with something like this, as far as the content, and it's a real nod to the actors. Obviously you're actors and you're getting paid, but bringing up the performances like they have in these, is such a cool thing, and such an appreciative thing, especially like, I guess, looking into the Fright Night remake, where you have Anton Yelchin, you have it was Colin Farrell, right?
And David Tennant.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
David Tennant was Peter Vincent. He was a Vegas magician, which I thought didn't work.
A little weird, yeah. But I mean, as far as some of the content, you see how it could easily be lost in translation. And these guys, they really bring it. You see the concern, and you see the fun when it's supposed to be fun. It's not something that's overly forced, and you're kind of wondering, like, am I supposed to be laughing right now, or am I supposed to be concerned? What the hell's going on here?
Exactly. You got that. Was such a creepy apartment building to live in.
Yeah.
Seeing everybody on campus, they're just probably going to this university campus that has a bowling alley. It's probably got a multiplex cinema, a laser quest arena. It's got everything.
Yeah.
So that's Blair Tefkin there behind the counter. And Blair Tefkin was in V. She was made famous by V, but there's tragedy that actually surrounds her as well from the film Poltergeist, as her character, Robin Maxwell, in V, was due to be played by Dominique Dunne, who played the daughter in the original Poltergeist, who was murdered by her partner.
Oh, man. Wow.
So...
And that was her behind the counter, you were saying?
That was her behind the counter, yeah, Blair Tefkin, who replaced Dominique Dunne in V, who had starred in Poltergeist, who was murdered by her partner. So it's kind of a weird, creepy sort of connection in horror films.
Yeah, all the tragedy. I mean, even that, you know, fell behind this movie, and I guess kind of going back earlier too, you know, as far as the franchise, it'd be really interesting to see. And I'm sure there was even, you know, kind of fan ideas that were out there as far as, you know, for where the franchise could have gone, you know, after this, if there were other sequels. But just to have the abruptness, and I mean, it seemed like not certainly by any means zero budget, but it seemed like it had a pretty decent budget still too, as far as for this one here, and you know, for the production of it. But
I'd say so. I'd certainly say so. I mean, but another question here from Colin, from one of our community members for you, which is on the topic of vampire films, have you seen John Carpenter's Vampires or Vampire Dollar? And if so, what are your thoughts on it?
Man, John Carpenter's Vampires, that opening scene when they're staking out the vampires from the house and pulling them out, they're burning. Dude, what a cool just moment in movies in general, like film, not even to say horror movies, but that whole scene, you know, what I don't know, that I feel like that was a moment, you know, as far as seeing different vampire movies where it was like, you know, I thought I'd seen everything. I thought I saw, you know, most of kind of, you know, the whole idea and different, man, that was so cool. I love that movie. It's been a long time.
Yeah. I actually imported that movie because when it came out in America, it wasn't released in the UK. So I had to import it on DVD from America to see it. And I really enjoyed it.
That movie's awesome.
I just think, I'm not going to get into it. I just think it falls apart a bit story-wise by the end. But the beginning of it is so cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like that first beginning sequence and some of the moments thereafter definitely come to mind. But it's been some years since I've seen it. So as far as if there's a little sloppiness at the end, that's not coming to mind.
Here we go. Oh. You see, I've always thought of this as a way you can get away with murder. What you do is, if you ever got anyone you want to murder, you take a stapler and you basically stake them through the heart. But after you've done that, you put a staple in there and then remove it. And then when the police come, you say that clearly they were a vampire and you were doing a community service.
Oh my God. Oh boy. I mean, as absolutely nuts as that sounds, I wonder how that would go over. Oh my God.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh my God. That's funny. Sir, that's clearly staple holes. You're an idiot. Yes. See you later. That's funny. Oh my God.
Eating beetles. And the crazy thing is now he's eating, we're seeing him eat insects and it's disgusting by that. And the insects are actually becoming quite kind of a cool thing for people to have, as you can go into quite a few stores now and buy like insect snacks and things as exotic foods.
Really?
It's kind of cool. Yeah, there's certain places, you can buy like bits of insect and stuff to snack on in some of the stores. Even here, I think some of the supermarkets here, they've got like crushed worms and things you can buy dried and a spice.
What the hell?
Crazy. Yeah, some of the health food stores as well.
Jeez. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I can't say, like that's one thing that I have loved about, with interviewing different people, and especially people from out of state and being out of the country, and is asking about local cuisine and asking about local things, where if I came somewhere local to you, what would be something?
Oh no, you would. I wouldn't. If you came to the UK, I wouldn't give you a bowl of beetles. Right? We don't have them like that. I mean, I just have quite an exotic. I'm one of these guys who I try exotic things, but I've been to health food stores and sort of cool bars and places where they have just exotic stuff.
Sure.
But yeah,
like,
no,
this guy hates me. Shit.
It's not like it's not like you're going to come in. I'm going to hand you a packet of like deep fried crickets or something.
Right. Oh, that's funny. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why that scene kind of reminds me of like a parental dog, just dealing with puppies biting on their ears and all this shit, and finally they give it a good thwack and get out of here, kid. Dear Lord, let me sleep.
That's a very cool shot of the sunset. Now she's reading her Dracula book. I will say he's picked a better girlfriend possibly this time. This one seems to be a little more proactive in dealing with the threat.
Agree. Hopefully she's not studying though, because dear God, I can't imagine what she's retaining, how fast she's scanning over these lines. Maybe unless she's looking for a highlighted line, maybe.
She's I remember from my studying, she's basically speed reading. You can use a ruler or something you can scan down if you're looking for a keyword in a book. So it just helps you focus on each line. You can quickly glance at each one as you scroll through.
Okay, yeah.
I love the fact his jacket on the back says surprise and it's got a wolf on it.
Oh, I didn't see the wolf. I see it saying surprise there.
Yeah, on the
nice,
sort of on the breast sort of area here, it's got a cartoon, sort of a cartoon Tex Avery wolf on it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Sparky John. Sparky John's asking, he wonders if that Wolfman's got nards as well.
Nice.
Now, here's a question for you and a question for all the chat. It's never really established how old any of this kind of crew are, with the exception of Regine. I mean, potentially is Louis that old that is his jacket maybe from the Second World War?
I mean, that's a detail. I mean, that's definitely a pretty in-depth look, and that's interesting as far as digging further into that. I've never thought of that, but I mean, that could certainly be.
It's just
you can't bowl, that's for sure.
No. No. Lizard Man says, "Oh, great! So now I have to respect this vampire because he's possibly a veteran. Possibly, well, he's a werewolf, but yeah, of some kind."
That is funny.
Never. If I've seen enough programs to show that you never mess with bowling machinery like that.
Yeah,
never mess with the pin retrievers and setters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's another one of those scenes too, where if you look in the grand scheme of things, just for the sake of why the hell was that even there? But it's it's an added ingredient to the movie that I've always loved about it. You know, it's ridiculous and it's silly, but it just kind of digs into a little bit as far as, you know, some of the extra things that you might be thinking about, like what the hell do these things do on their free time? You know, I kind
of like it. I like the idea that they are a crew, they are friends. They've maybe been together for hundreds of years. Hanging out. So, you know, they've got to have fun together. It's not like they're going to go and meet new people, because basically any new people they meet become food.
Yeah. Now I had, and maybe I'm wrong if anybody else has heard this as well, but I've heard different people mention, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on his name now, but the werewolf character, Louis, yeah, that he was a vampire of some sorts too. And I had always established since I've originally seen the movie that he was a werewolf.
I don't know, maybe he's some kind of a vampire wolf. I don't know. I don't think it's explicitly explained.
Yeah,
maybe he's, because some of the vampires are like shapeshifters, aren't they? It was established that they could turn into, you know, bat-type creatures, and Jerry could turn into fog in the first one. So maybe he's just a vampire, but he likes to be in almost a different sort of shape or something. Because I mean, he looks very much like a vampire there.
Yeah. It's just so ridiculous, you know. I love that too, how they incorporated some of this stuff, and you know, and it's just as damn silly and goofy as you would think, you know, that you're imagining.
Yep. Oh, I always wanted a little portable TV like that, but
boy,
having seen one as an adult, they were dreadful. The picture on those things.
Yeah, right. You have a magnifying glass next to it just to try and see anything.
But I mean, we really do live in the future now. I mean, the fact that they've got a little black and white TV there that, you know, that can play an analog broadcast at very low quality, and now I've got a watch that can play full video if I want it to, in full color, in high definition, where it's nuts.
Yeah, that is insane. Now, do you find yourself, you know, with streaming platforms and things like that, do you find yourself still exploring different, you know, scary movies just based off of the thumbnail or anything like that, kind of in fashion?
I do, yeah. I think in some ways, I think streaming's good and bad. I know a lot of people have a thing for physical media. What I will say is my wife doesn't particularly like physical media. So streaming and digital copies and digital everything's a lot better for me. But I find it's also easier to quickly explore new things digitally as well. Okay. If I find, you know, a poster, a thumbnail, a tagline, a brief synopsis, I will find can make me very interested in something.
Okay.
I think if it's a movie where you've got to go out sometimes and physically, you know, buy the Blu-ray, the DVD, or the whatever, and wait for it to arrive, then you kind of feel obliged to watch it. And I think in some ways you can feel obliged to think things are better if you've paid a lot more money for it.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I can say I fell into it with having to go to a video store. Or even to say like a music shop, for instance, you know, and say you're a little kid and you have $10 of allowance that you waited 2 weeks for or some shit. And you go in, you buy an album and you come out and it's dreadful. You know, it's the worst thing you've ever heard. And you wasted all of your damn allowance on it. You know, it's like, I got to sit and like listen to this for a little while and try to like something, because God damn it, I just spent all of my money on it.
Exactly. But I mean, again, something we've spoken about with many of our guests before is you're probably the age where you did go to the video store with your parents and they'd let you pick a movie or something at the weekend. And My God, how long did you spend picking that right movie?
Dude,
Yeah,
you're not lying. I mean, that was totally the thing, you know, and I could even go further. Like my wife was just the same way too, to where they would walk out and they would have like 8 movies, you know, and she tells me that.
yeah.
I'm like, my friends and I didn't even do that, you know, like we knew we might get through like 2 or something, but yeah, she's like, you know, I wanted Wishmaster and I got every one of them that there were, you know. It's like, oh, okay, but yeah, I mean, there was definitely, I can say one particular time that was way too long. I mean, it was daylight and we ended up probably leaving, it was dark, and my parents, you know, just kind of, you know, like heckling you. But I got a movie called Death Spa. You ever hear of that one?
No.
Probably for good reason, but it was you know, it was just a VHS that they had, and I kind of went back and forth between a few, and I had a bunch of my friends and I mean, it certainly has its qualities, and it's a pretty fun movie about like a haunted gym, you know, that's killing people and shit. But yeah, that movie was definitely cool. I wish I had that VHS still today. I think it's really cool.
I think for me, a lot of the weird and crazy stuff I saw from the video stores was because when I grew up in the UK, we didn't have many branches of Blockbuster, and a lot of our video stores were all local, as you call mom and pop type ones, where at the most they might have 3 copies of a movie, maybe 4, if you were lucky, of a big new release. You know, you're talking like when your Jurassic Park or something comes out, where Blockbuster would have a throne built out of copies of it in every store. They maybe had, you know, the mom and pop maybe really pushed back and bought 4 copies of it. So quite often the big movie you wanted wouldn't be in. So you'd go and it was like, well, I'm having a movie this weekend anyway. It doesn't matter if I can't have my choice. I've got to find something. And yeah, I watched a lot of crap because
you end up settling for Carnosaur.
That's the kind of thing. Yeah. That's the kind of
nice. I love that. You know, but I will say too, like, so nowadays it's such a cool thing. Like maybe streaming is a little bit of a bummer in certain senses, but having companies, you know, like Vinegar Syndrome or Severn or, you know, some of the Scream Factory and just even something like a movie called Tammy and the T-Rex, you know, it came out in the 90s. I should have seen it. I should have known what it was, you know, and it was like, especially for how much time I spent in a video store. I certainly should. The scene is so damn cool.
It is.
I certainly should have known what that movie was. Never heard of it, you know, and it's really cool seeing this resurgence as far as different movies that I thought I knew everything that was out. I thought that I knew everything that there was, you know, to offer. And now you have all this stuff where it's like, holy shit, where are they getting these movies from?
Yeah, it's crazy how many movies that missed people by back in the day. But I mean, I think for me, my education, I've said to our audience many times before, I was lucky in some ways. My parents were both professionals, so business professionals. My father was a company sort of managing director, and my mother was a senior sort of nurse. So I was at home a hell of a lot as a kid on my own during holidays and things. Not as in school holidays, as in, you know, when you're not in school. So I'd have a lot of time to myself. But my parents, because we were quite financially well off, we had satellite TV, but we had the absolute top end package. And my parents didn't put any parental controls on it. So I could just watch any horror movie I wanted to. I think I was 12 I think I was 11 or 12 when I saw Hellraiser.
Holy man.
Yeah. And that's where I saw so many of these films, because in the early days, the satellite TV didn't have a lot of the sort of the AAA movies. Your Indiana Jones, that kind of stuff was saved for Saturday night as the big movie that they'd show. And so they had to fill the other slots in with the cheap stuff like this, like a lot of stuff that would be direct to video in the UK. And that's where I saw so much horror. They had a massive amount of horror on, which was kind of a cool way to get your education.
What were local video shops to you then? Because you mentioned not having like Blockbusters or anything like that.
There were a few Blockbusters in the UK, but they were very few and far between. But a lot of our video stores were in what we would call newsagents, like little grocery stores. So they'd have like 2 walls of videos with a selection of maybe 100 or 200 tapes, and it wasn't properly curated. It was That was very prevalent in the UK. And we did have a few VHS sort of dedicated rental stores, but again, they were all independently owned, sort of one person, and they didn't have, like I say, if they had 4 copies of a brand new movie that came out, they'd really push the boat out, and it had to be a Jurassic Park level kind of movie where they'd spend the money to buy those copies of it.
Okay.
But so they'd have a lot of just random stuff, or equally they had a lot of really cool old stuff there. And one of the video stores near me, the owner was really cool, and he had this back room, and he would just he would get sent loads of promotional stand-ups and posters, and he'd let you go in as a kid and just take the posters if he liked you.
Oh man, wow.
So I had quite a few posters in my bedroom growing up. I had a very cool one for Nightmare on Elm Street 5. It was the full shop window size poster, the one of Freddy with his glove out with the pram in it, with the baby carriage in it. Just loads of cool stuff like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But
was that your favorite that you had from those posters?
I had a few. I think it's probably one of my favorites, because I know it's quite it was cool, but it wasn't cool, and it was probably people would scream at me now. My parents bought. There was a big craze in the 80s about trying to mark your stuff to stop it being stolen, where you'd use a UV ink pen, so it was invisible ink, and you could draw on things with UV ink. And what I did with this Freddy poster was I traced all the outline of bits of it with this UV pen. So when you looked at it normally, you couldn't see anything. But then I had a UV bulb I'd put in the room, like a black light bulb, and you put that in, and all bits of the poster will be just glowing in UV at you.
Nice.
Kind of thing you do when you're sort of 12,
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, even when you're young like that, and you have like the little like glow in the dark stars, and you put different things all over. I mean, that's the time that you're kind of discovering personal interests, and kind of digging into the less innocent things, and horror movies. And did you collect VHS?
I made quite a lot of VHS when I was young. It was mainly martial arts movies I was more into than horror.
Ooh, nice. Okay. Okay.
I liked a lot of the Chuck Norris, the Cynthia Roth rock, that kind of era.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go. We've got a twist coming. World's worst sort of vampire. Carla raises a very good point here. When did the good doctor become a vampire?
Yeah, right.
He was earlier in the film. He was out in the daytime as your half vampire. I think he got turned at some point. I kind of agree with you, Matt, a bit. This scene with the vampire therapist, all the comedic timing is off, and it's a big WTF moment. It kind of pulls you out the movie a bit. I think it's maybe not enough of a shock. It's a bit strange as well with the whole why the railway crossing alarm would go off while she was being attacked and then stop, because it's some kind of supernatural thing.
Yeah, I was trying to see too if there was any bigger interviews that like Tommy Lee Wallace has done, or different people mentioned. I tried doing some digging. There's not really a whole lot behind. I mean, you have the same old IMDb things that anybody can rattle off, but just as far as the behind the scenes things. You know, and like my DVD copy, it's literally play, movie, and chapters. I mean, there's nothing extra, you know, nothing extra to it. And I would really love to see a Blu-ray copy, you know, with maybe some sort of a behind the scenes, or, you know, something just a commentary of
some
sorts.
Real, some real something to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to ask a couple of questions now. This question to you and go on to our chat. Would you have made Fright Night 2?
Would I have?
If you were the executive after the first Fright Night movie, would you have made the sequel?
I mean, I guess it just depends on the content and all, but I feel like if I was involved in the first one, I probably wouldn't have. I think it's just such a fun standalone story, and a movie that doesn't really, in certain ways, I mean, I guess you feel a little bit of like what happens after this, but I think ultimately when you're finished watching the first Fright Night, you know, it's kind of like, it feels almost like a complete package. You know, it feels like a story that, you know, I don't feel like I need to have anymore. After it being a thing, I'm really happy that it is for its ridiculous qualities. But yeah, I think it's fair. You know, probably say no.
Okay, and if you had to make it, what might you have done differently? Maybe where you would you have taken it?
Oh boy, that's tough. See, I was trying to think, you know, myself, as far as like if they were to have made a third one where they would bring the story past this. But Jesus, not to make the sequel from the first one. This is probably, I mean, I guess maybe a little cop out, but I would figure bringing it something that, you know, that it's going to be like a vengeance film of some sort, you know, to you know, pay tribute to the death in the original one, and, you know, in a sense, ruining all the plans that they were trying to put in place. I don't know, you know, I love Evil Ed so much that maybe the fucking whole movie would be about him. Have nothing to do with the rest of the stuff. But I mean, you know, I guess he couldn't necessarily do that. But I don't, man, I hate not having a good answer for that. But
no, it's fine. It's a question I like to ask, I guess, this kind of thing, asking where would you go with things, where would you do things, because it's a fine movie, this is, but it's not the first one.
Right.
It just feels like, as much as I enjoy elements of this movie, there's a lot of it I just feel isn't necessary. So I mean, that's the question of the Discord is, what would you guys do differently if I was to wave a wand and put you in charge of the, you know, the sequel? How would you, if you were reimagining the sequel, where would you take it from the first movie? What would you change about this?
I'm definitely eager to hear, you know, and it's funny. It was something I was thinking of earlier. You were mentioning a question, and if I ever made a movie, I feel like I would host, you know, well, maybe not now that I'm starting to say this, but I was going to say, I feel like I would want to host, you know, some sort of a watch party, as far as, you know, especially with horror fans, you know, there's a level, you know, of like detail.
Just got to give him props. He's making steaks in a desk pencil sharpener, the kind we had in school, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so cool, definitely. I know, I do love this part when they start pulling together different props and different things to kind of, you know, it almost reminds me of like, God, is it Phantasm 2 or 3 when they start pulling together like the is it like a shotgun? Jesus Christ, and I'm forgetting what the weapons are, what the movie is.
It's a bit of a Ghostbusters type element here as well. He's got the sprayer on his back, and
right.
4-barrel shotgun phonics, so that's true. Well, steak gun.
Yeah.
but I can kind of accept that Peter has, you know, since the first movie, since he's so sure of the existence of vampires now, he's upped his arsenal of equipment to fight vampires.
I wonder how damn heavy that tank is on his back and how it's not pulling him off the side of that building, though.
Well, I guess it depends how much water it's holding.
Sure.
I mean, I've got a backpack sprayer for my garden for killing weeds. Sometimes it's plastic, but you fill it with water, and it's about 20 kilos, which is okay.
Yeah. Right.
Here we go. Seeing he's kind of channeling his inner Jerry Dandridge here with his kind of cool suits and everything.
Mm-hmm.
With Richie. But this is very much sort of similar to the first movie at the end, where his girlfriend is sort of locked in a room waiting to finish her transformation. Carla says, see, I would have to just get another boyfriend. I'm sorry, I'm not climbing on the outside of the building. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, fair enough. Did anybody mention what they would do if they were to have
come
made?
on, guys in the chat. What would you do different about this movie? I think Smarky John did say it's maybe got too many protagonists in it, and sometimes too many villains confuse the story.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, Smarky John did say bring back Evil Ed.
Yes, I agree. So cool.
Oh.
God, this part is awesome. That throat scene is so disgusting.
But again, I'm going to go back to Lost Boys. They do a very similar thing in Lost Boys with holy water and water pistols.
Yeah. Yep. That is true. Well, I'm checking. Okay, so this is in '88. What was Lost Boys in
87?
87. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There could have been some things lifted. I mean, certainly there could have been, you know, a production. Yeah. I love them just hanging upside down over the window, looking down. So sweet.
Oh, that's really cool though. Stunt.
I mean, like you mentioned with him, you know, old Louis' character, if that was something where, as opposed to the whole, you know, kind of gang, if they would have had Regine, you know, as the master kind of set back, and, you know, that's like the, you know, the very last villain in the sense that you have to kill, and he's kind of the forefront, you know, and more of the guy chasing, you know, that might have been something too. But like I say, you know, I think I appreciate, you know, with having the cast that we do, you know, of characters here.
I kind of would have liked to have seen the end of this done a little bit differently, in that I would have liked to have seen a different, rather than the escape as we're seeing it now, I would rather that they had to fight as they worked their way up the stairs.
Yeah.
Almost like bosses on different levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That would have been cool. Nope, not today. I can say they were a hell of a shot when they shot out that the fire from the candle, but
yeah,
you're not getting him. Got the wrong raw end of the deal.
I think so. Carlos says, how dare he hit Peter Vincent? The man was a national treasure. Oh, we're seeing Charlie getting the bloodlust. That's true. That's true, Sparky John. He's saying that with Charlie in that red kind of flowing gown, he's getting visions of Bram Stoker's Dracula in there with his kind of his red robe as he's walking. I'd say it's like Hugh Hefner from Hell myself, that kind of
yeah,
silk pajamas. Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
And yet again, such a cool practical effect right here.
Yeah.
Like, what a gross moment too.
It is. It also shows he's not a vampire, he's some kind of familiar monster or pet or something, because he's just made of everything putrid he's been eating.
Mm-hmm. So cool.
It is. Lizardman says, my worms, my worms.
You could be right. That looked like centuries worth of worms. So, I mean, they could be way older than what they look.
Yeah.
Of course, being vampires. Now, in seeing this, I'm trying to think of. Well, I'm going to stop that because this is so cool too, and of course it's a kind of it's a Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
Raiders of the melting. Yeah, that's so cool.
Exactly.
This effect though too, with the jelly kind of looking, skin, and that's rocks.
Oh, we're seeing her go through the door as a bat. Carla said it reminds her of the melting in Raiders of the Lost Ark as well, which I would completely agree with. But I mean, let's give props to Raiders of the Lost Ark. That is so influential, that melting scene. It became the standard for just everything.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the behind the scenes of how they did that and kind of went into filming and pulled that whole thing off?
Yeah, it was filmed. I've seen quite a few making of it before. In fact, when it comes to the Indiana Jones movies, we had a watch party for our sci-fi community for Empire Strikes Back, and we had the actor who played General Veers, who also played the bad guy in Last Crusade, and he did his mid-80s, and he was absolutely incredible. Talking about all the effects and everything they've done in the films.
Man, that's so awesome. So cool. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing to be able to watch a video and then being able to talk to somebody involved.
Yeah.
Next level. That's awesome.
Yeah. Julian Glover. And he was just telling us some cool stuff about that. I mean, our community have heard this story before, but I'll tell you now, it's very funny. When he made The Last Crusade, if you recall, at the end, he drinks from the wrong chalice and he decays and rots. Well, the prosthetic sort of mask and head they made of him for that, when they finished the movie, the effects department gave it to him and he took it home with him, and his wife hated it, so he stored it in the garage. And then a number of years later, they were having a sort of garage clear out, and he took it to the dump and threw this screen-used prop of his head from the movie in the dump. And then he was at a convention in America a number of years later, telling one of the guys in one of the rooms, and the guy, one of the collector's room guys, said, so like, if you had that now, I'll give you $40,000 on the spot for it.
Oh,
so
man. And just thrown in the dump.
Took it to the dump and threw it away because his wife hated it, which was really quite funny.
Wow, man, what a bummer. And there's certainly things over the years too, you know, where it's like, if you look back and you kind of think of, you know, or if you knew where you're going to be in the future and you have some room to, you know, store some of these things and whatnot, you know, you're like, damn it, why did I get rid of that?
Very much.
I had a CED player. Were you ever familiar with those?
Yes,
with
capacitance electrode disc. Basically,
there you go.
Movies on vinyl records inside caddies that use a stylus to play, and picture quality was not good, should we say?
No. It was something I found one at a Goodwill over here, so like a secondary, you know, like thrift shop. And it had probably like 10 or 15 actual like vinyls with it, you know, a couple of them are right here, the cases to them. But man, for what the console was to what the technology was, you know, it was just like, this is not even worth it. This thing is a pain in my ass. But I do love the artwork on the actual releases. So I kept
exactly. I'm the same. I've got a Laserdisc player downstairs with a stack of Laserdiscs. I've watched half an hour of one of my Laserdisc movies because I bought a clearance lot of them. So I've got a big stack. The artwork on the Laserdiscs is just incredible. But I'd rather watch the Blu-ray of the movie.
Yeah. Have you gotten into like soundtracks or anything like that? I know it's a big resurgence, or has been. You know, was that something that you'd gotten into collecting vinyl?
I'm not in vinyl, no, but I've always listened to soundtracks, usually the orchestral scores. More of a sci-fi fan, possibly, on some of it. I think some of the scores from people like, again, we had an Inner Space watch party last week, and we talked about Jerry Goldsmith, John Williams, some of those guys who've just done such incredible scores.
Wow.
Okay, we've got a question from Sparky John again for you, Eric, here, which is, have you seen Julie Carmen in John Carpenter's The Mouth of Madness?
You know, I did. I don't know if I remember realizing that was her, though. What a wild movie that was, too. I guess I didn't realize that was her. Do you remember offhand, was she the lead?
I'm sure Sparky John will just give us the answer to that in a second. Sharon's asking me, Laserdisc was popular for a while. How many movies do you have on laser? I've got probably 60 to 70 movies. The bulk of them I bought with the player because it was someone clearing out the collection. They just bundled it up to get rid of all of them. So that's kind of cool. And our friend Oliver Harper very kindly sent me a stack of his duplicates as a gift. So thank you again, Oliver.
Wow. Yeah, nice. Jeez. Yeah, that was the same situation where I bought the player, and then it came with the CED, the actual like the vinyls with them too. So, you know, quite a few of those I kept. I regretted I had a couple of King Kong ones that, for whatever reason, I don't know how I got rid of them because I wouldn't have thrown them away, but they're not here anymore, and that irritates me a little. You were mentioning sci-fi too, and that book, you know, before we had gone on, I was mentioning that's all like that's the sequel book, but that's all, you know, all sci-fi and different, you know, some kind of teetering on horror, but their first book was all about horror soundtracks, and the second one was sci-fi. And yeah, that's really cool stuff that I think, I could really say music or score wise, I had never noticed until Jaws. I think Jaws was really the first thing where, that kind of put into my mind as far as music being something in the movie rather than just a background noise, and
Oh, definitely.
Still today is terrifying.
Soundtracks make movies. I mean, I've always said this, that if you take probably the greatest movie composer who's alive today, who's John Williams, of course, the legend behind just everything. If you liked a movie franchise growing up, Star Wars, Jaws, Harry Potter, Superman, you name Close Encounters, you name it, he wrote them. You imagine watching a Star Wars movie without the score.
It would it would certainly be it'd be a different dynamic. And you wonder too if some of the movies, and this might be something bold to say, but if they didn't have the score that they have behind them, to accompany in trailers and different, because that was something too, when you were watching like a trailer or just like a little quick bit, you would have, like, say Star Wars, for instance, you would have some of the, the music playing, that even if you were out of the room, you're in the kitchen getting something and you hear that, you're like, oh, what the hell is that? Star Wars is on TV. You run out of the room and, have to go and see what that is. And that's a good point though. I wonder, some of those movies, if they replaced, some of the music, or even if any fans have done that and put it on YouTube or a clip or something.
Well, for example, take the first Superman movie, the first night where Superman is performing a rescue. It's got this score that's perfectly cueing the events on screen of her falling out of the helicopter, the build up to him changing and building up the tension. Imagine that with no music. It would just be, it'd just be nothing.
Weird.
It would be weird. It wouldn't work. But yes,
why the hell did they shoot this?
She played Linda Stiles and was the female lead in that movie.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I do remember because that was actually a movie that had flown under my radar up until probably 2 years ago. Was the first time that I'd seen that movie. And I do have to say, I loved her in it. She did great, but Sam Neill, he's just one of those cats where if I see him on the bill, I see him on the credits. That's normally a drawing point for sure, in or out of horror.
Well, I don't know if it's a horror, if it's a thriller or not.
Yeah, it's
great.
No, it's in between.
I was going about a Sam Neill movie. Sorry, a Sam Neill movie that is often forgotten about, and I'd say it's maybe a bit horror. It's a bit of a thriller. Is Dead Calm, one of my all-time favorites, with Nicole Kidman and Billy Zane.
Yeah,
only got the three of them in it. About where they find a drifter on a boat.
Yes. That, I'm trying to think of how the hell I even watched that movie. That was something I just probably this last year, maybe I watched, and I feel like it was on like YouTube or something. Like it was something where it was just ridiculous that it just pulled up and started playing. I'm like, what the hell is this? Yeah. That movie is cool.
It's just incredible.
There's a wrap.
That's it. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been amazing just talking about this. We're just as we go through the credits. Can you tell us if you've got anything lined up at the moment, what you're working on, what can people be expecting from you?
I have I do interviews. I have a show called The Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing on You Live. I do live interviews on Instagram where I interview people from the film industry, from the music industry, writers, actors, directors, all sorts. And I actually just started booking guests for December. So I've got the next few months lined up. I normally do somewhere around 5 or 6 guests, and every Sunday I do my interviews live. I've got those going on, and that's really been kind of keeping me busy. The last couple of years, once in the year, I've been doing a fundraiser of some sort. Like a benefit of something, and myself and some others in the horror community, donate something towards, a better cause. And I've kind of started digging into something again for this coming year as well to get back into that too. So hopefully something comes, to fruition and I get that, finally figured out. But with the interviews, I guess kind of
Well, that's really cool. I mean, if you are doing something that with the charity, with your charity promoting it, something, let us know, and we'll certainly mention it to our community. What's going on. Any charity is always worthwhile. It's a really, really cool thing. But thank you for joining us. And I mean, are there any horror movies coming up, or any horror movies you think everyone should check out they may not have seen? Anything you'd recommend as a good follow-up to this?
I have to say, let me look really quick just to make sure that I'm not messing up the title of it. It's the vampire movie that I was mentioning earlier on. Let's see. It's called My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. Okay. I would definitely say to check that out. So the director is Jonathan Curtis, and it just came out this last year, but it follows a young family, two brothers and a sister, and the one brother seems like he's kind of that he's suffering from something of the sorts of being a vampire. The one brother has to set out to actually kill people to bring home to feed the brother blood. And it's a really wild story of just this kind of family of being stuck in this wild, insane situation and trying to deal with it how they can, because it's family, and, do what you can to, try and help out. And I really dug that movie. Yeah.
I'll certainly check it out. It looks really cool from the sounds of it.
Yeah, really, so that would be a follow-up, I think.
Okay, that's cool. That's very cool. Okay, everybody. Well, I want to say thank you again to Eric for joining us, and thank you to our community for joining us here. So we will be back next week in our sci-fi community, and we will be watching the classic Space Camp, which I'm so looking forward to.
Nice.
And then, yes, guys, in 2 weeks, we will be back with horror. And he's back again. Our friend, Jamie Madrox of Twisted, will be joining us for Child's Play. So expect more awesomeness with Jamie, who is just so awesome and cool. But equally, Eric, you've been awesome and cool too. So to everybody, we will see you next week on Sci-Fi for Space Camp. And then in 2 weeks, again, on horror for Child's Play. So any closing words, Eric?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I look forward to the new In Search of Darkness, and I love everything that you guys are doing for the horror community. So keep it up.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Eric, and we'll see you soon. Okay, then. Bye-bye.